Obviously I'm wearing a wig. It's looking a little busted, and I got it a couple weeks ago, and I don't wear it, haven't worn it that often, and I feel like I don't know how to wear the wig. I'd like to learn perhaps how to, like, I don't know. Oh my God, it's in my mouth. Like pluck hairlines, kind of like blend it in. Also this wig like doesn't have a part, so it's just like, and I feel like I can't get it to look right. It's a cheap wig, but I just wanted to buy a wig just for fun. I've always kind of felt like sometimes different outfits go with different types of hair, and it'd be fun to be able to like experiment with having like different hair colors and textures within reason, and like lengths and styles and stuff. Not saying that like we have to do that, because another thing, you know, it's kind of hard to say like, oh, I think certain styles go with different outfits, and it'd be fun to not be creatively limited by like what you have already. But at the same time, like you don't have to be limited to what you have on your head or like what you look like, because that shouldn't matter. Like you should be able to like wear whatever outfit you want, even if it doesn't like go with like what your like hair looks like, because really that's kind of made up. Like we make up these rules of what looks correct or fashionable, right? But I mean, I don't know. I still think it would be fun to be able to play around with different types of hair and stuff. And, you know, I've always kind of wanted to be a redhead. So like a little strawberry blonde moment. I have a lot of things that I want to talk about lately. I want to make a lot of different videos, maybe talking about certain topics. And there's also certain things that I want to talk about, some past experiences I've had that are like really relevant to like kind of my present day, like ideologies, I guess, that I'd love to share. And that's kind of something maybe I want to save for like when I have a bigger platform, when I don't have plans right now to like become YouTube famous, but I don't know. So anyway, so I've been doing a lot of reading lately, and for that, I'm really living my best life. I feel like when I was really little, I used to like to read a lot, especially nonfiction. Middle school and then into high school and college, the last thing I wanted to do was like be learning any more than I have to, even though I really do like to learn. And I think that reading books on topics you're interested in, I think is amazing, because you can read at your own pace and, you know, learn the things you truly want to learn without being tested, without having to write essays on stuff. So anyway, I read this book on self-compassion, and right now I'm reading a book called The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor. I'm also reading a book on traditional natal astrology, and I feel like I'm finding a lot of connections. Oh my God, you guys. The hairs. Oh God, I'm hot. It's like 90 degrees out. The sun isn't setting yet, but like there's probably like a good hour or so before the sun officially sets, and I do have this phone propped up on my windowsill, so I am getting the natural light in, and I feel like I'm talking fast because I'm like, oh, the sun's gonna go down. Girl, it's gonna be light out for like another hour. So really no stress. But oh, I guess I was just explaining that it's hot today, and of course the wig, it's like hot under the wig, so I feel like I'm sweating. Anywho, a lot of the themes among these three books, and surprisingly, some of the things in the traditional astrology book, I feel like tie into the other books in a way. Talks about being kind to yourself and being kind to others. I think present day society and like, I don't know, psychological ideologies or whatever you call it, focus a lot on self-esteem. And I like that these books kind of take a little bit of a different approach, you know, that like you can love yourself and like be kind to yourself without needing to like fuel your ego and feel like you're hot, you're beautiful, you're attractive, you're all of these like things. And like, you know, the goal doesn't have to be to think highly of yourself or like feel like you're beautiful, or to like lie to yourself and be like, you just need to pretend you're beautiful, and then you like believe it when like you don't. And focus more on like your body does so many amazing things for it, and you should like love yourself for like who you are and what you look like good or bad. And also knowing that good and bad are made up terms, right? Like as we traveled through time, we've seen a lot of different representations of what is considered ideal beauty or attractiveness, and it changes, and it's all just like based up on our arbitrary measures. And I'm just really into the idea of like, what if we just be, like body neutrality? Like, your body just is the way you look, like it just is. Like, focus on facts about your body and like the things that it does, and like get to know your body as well, and like get to know yourself. It's very freeing to me, the idea of not trying to meet certain standards or not trying to fight against them and saying like, I am beautiful despite these things. It's like nobody's beautiful. Even the people that we regard as being like very beautiful and attractive, like that's all opinion based and all and based on factors and like outside of our control and things that we have learned. And I find that the more that you kind of practice this idea of neutrality, the more that you kind of find like your true way of existing in the world. I guess the example of like attraction, you might think, well, there is some element to like what is like inherently attractive, or like we are sexually attracted to certain qualities inherently. But the more that you try to strip away these societal norms, I hate to say society because it's like we make up society, right? So it's like who is this like society that like we refer to? I guess it is us. But you know what I'm saying, that what we see in the media, what we're taught is attractive and like the ideal beauty standards, I think the more that we try to strip away that, we find ourselves like attracted to or like intrigued, like certain things pique our interest that might actually go outside of those things. And I think that just goes to show you that, we are not bound to what we are told is attractive, and that we are told, oh, this is like biologically like what is attractive. It's like, I think that's kind of, a lot of it is
A load of crap.
and just not true. And the more that you're aware of this and the more that you try to just be, then you will find that like what we've been told just doesn't always apply. And that's kind of the other thing, is think about like who you would be, what you would do if you could do anything or be anything or like anything. Because like, once again, all of those things can be heavily influenced by like what we're taught. And it's easy for us to like not like something or not be interested in something just because like we're told that we shouldn't be. But maybe like really we are. We have likes and dislikes that might go against what is good or bad. I think I tend to try to use language that is focused on like, oh, I like that or I don't like that. Like if you watch a movie and someone's like, oh, was it good? I will say, oh, I liked it. Because really, sometimes I like things that I know are like bad. Like people would say that it's bad or not good quality. There's certain standards of how like movies should operate, or good production, or good writing, things, you know what I'm saying? And so sometimes things I'm like, well, I feel like people would say that's bad writing. I can recognize that to certain standards or degrees of quality, something might be bad, but I still like it, so it doesn't really matter. I know this sounds like a whole lot more likely. You're like, oh, so like, is killing people bad? You're saying killing people or murdering someone or like
Violence.
isn't bad? And it's like that's not what I'm saying.
Obviously.
But very much we decide a lot of what good and bad is, or wrong and right is in the world. And I think when you like strip that back and you find that there's just like a more instinctual or like intuitive way of like being in the world, where you can kind of like decide like what things are pleasurable or not pleasurable, are things that aren't safe. That's another thing, is that a lot of time anxiety tricks us into thinking that we're in danger when we're not. And we have to decide, is this fear or am I in peril? Because a lot of times we're scared of things, but we're not in danger. So there is kind of this instinctual response that we have that tells us we are in danger, but that's different than being fearful of something. I deleted my social media apps again like a week or so ago, and yesterday I did post a picture of a cactus flower on Instagram, whatever, because I thought it was pretty. I was like, oh, maybe people might like this. I keep kind of having this issue where I'll be on social media and then it will upset me in some way, and I'm just like,
I don't need to see this. Like,
social media should be about sharing content and viewing content that you like, or things that you want to see, or things that are inspiring. Because, no one has to say anything. I don't have to make this video. I don't have to talk. I don't have to tweet certain things. But, sometimes I am glad that people do. It's like, I'm glad that they said these things or did these things because it was really important for me and I feel like I learned a lot, or it helped me see something that I needed to see or needed to hear, right? So that isn't to say that people shouldn't be allowed to say something. You should be able to say whatever you want, even if 10,000 other people are saying the same thing, or you're not really contributing anything new, but it's new, it could be new to somebody and they could be really glad that you said something or posted something or made a video, what have you, wrote an article. However, y'all have really done it. Oh God. I feel like a few months ago, a lot of things I was saying were triggering responses in me directly related to my insecurity. And I think that was hard for me to deal with sometimes. I'd watch a video on TikTok and it'd be funny. But then I would suddenly turn into oh, that was really funny and I'm not as funny as that person. Or, oh, that person's really attractive. Why don't I look like that? It would kind of turn into this inward spiral of, self-destruction. And maybe a little bit of that still persists today, but another part of me, I will see things and I feel people, the attitude and the atmosphere is very critical, judgmental, negative, at least a lot of the things that I'm seeing on social media these days. And it's just frustrating for me to see all of that. It's hard too, because a lot of us feel pressured to follow our friends or like our friends' tweets or support stuff. And that's great and all, but I really feel social media should be about, you shouldn't be obligated to see content that you don't want to see. And it shouldn't be a big deal if you don't want to follow certain people or see certain people, because why would you constantly subject yourself to hours upon hours each day of seeing things that anger you or frustrate you or things that you just don't like? That's just a lot of negativity and anger that you willingly expose yourself to every day. No wonder everyone's gone batshit crazy in the younger generations, is because it's just I don't know. And I feel a lot of people, there's a lot of elitism. I keep using air quotes because nothing I'm saying has any intrinsic value. I'm just saying what I want to say. And so I'm saying elitism, for me, in the sense that everybody's ooh, I'm cultured, I'm educated. So they want to write their opinions that tear other people down. I'm so sorry, you guys. I know you did not come here to watch me touch my mouth, but I really feel there's hairs in my mouth when there aren't. Okay. Back to the point. Yeah, everyone wants to be educated. Everyone wants to feel they're contributing something new, or I'm just kind of tired of some of the things. I know for a couple months ago and stuff, there was that trend on TikTok that was I may have shit myself in the 4th grade, but I've never called a bitch fat, and I live by that or something. And it's shut the fuck up and get over yourself. You're not better than everybody else because you don't do or never did blah blah blah. It's oh, that irks me to no end. And then I feel we all love to come at each other and try to one up each other with the next piece of information or something we learned, and being actually, if you think about it this, blah 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 blah. And it's I get it. I love that we get to educate each other on certain issues, or keep conversations going and try to dismantle structures and make sure that we're not believing things or perpetuating ideologies that just aren't reflective of reality. But girl, this wig, I swear. Yeah, I guess it's just like, I feel like we're not giving people the opportunity to make mistakes and be wrong. Because, and not just for me, all y'all, like, especially as teenagers, like, people will tell us, oh, don't make this mistake or don't do this. But we don't listen and we do it anyway. And a lot of times the real value in those experiences comes from experiencing things for yourself and learning things for yourself. And we don't really give each other the opportunity to do that. I think as soon as you say something like a little bit wrong, like wrong, like a little bit insensitive, people like to come at their necks and be like, they should know better than this, or blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yes, I get it. We should be able to tell people that they're wrong, or open a discussion and be like, hey, like, I didn't like that you said that. Here's why. And let people learn and stop this like cancel culture nonsense, because also a lot of times we really don't know where people are coming from. And I like to believe that a lot of people have the best of intentions and they didn't mean to do certain things. I don't want us to suddenly become so scared of everything. And sometimes that almost like makes it worse, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know the psychology behind this, but like being so scared of something, or like something that's so drilled into your brain, like suddenly like it like has the opposite effect, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, cancel culture is really frustrating. And we keep forgetting that everybody receives different education, and we should stop blaming each other for what we don't know or for not being educated. We should like point that eye to the people that are educating us in the media, right? Because of course, like, you're going to seek out the content that matters to you. So if it doesn't matter to you or it's not pertinent to you, it's probably not going to reach you, especially if certain issues aren't being represented to mainstream media, right? Like, we're all busy people. Like, we don't have the time to like seek out the things that we're not being shown. Like, we should keep fighting to get better representation and to talk about a lot of the issues that matter to like minority groups and marginalized communities, instead of pointing the finger and being like, "Ugh, they're so uneducated." And that's frustrating because it's hard to always be around people that you feel like aren't like educated, or you feel like you have to like constantly teach them things because whatever. Like, I understand that, and I want to start being more forgiving of people that have good intentions and like the best of interests. They just aren't receiving the type of education, the type of information that we want them to get, because we're having to like go seek it out. Like, there's so many things that I know or have learned in my life because I wanted to seek it out. But there's also a lot of things that like I know nothing about. There are so many things going on in the world and so many people that exist and so many like cultures that I don't know anything about and that aren't being shown on mainstream media. And it's like, am I supposed to go seek all of that out on my own? Like, I would continually miss things, right? Like, we don't have the hours in the day to do all of that type of research. So let's not forget what keeps people from being educated and informed, right? So anyway, that kind of just brings me back to some of my points on why I get frustrated with social media. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Goes back to the whole like ego thing that frustrates me, is that like a lot of us like, we say we want to help people, but a lot of people like, they want to get credit for it. They want the visibility of like, look at me helping, look at me educating, look at me, I'm so smart. And it's like, no, that's like, you are being driven by like your own ego, not by the like the connection to like the part of like your soul that like wants to like connect with people and help people. And I'm just like, I don't know, I'm tired of living my life that way. This video is already too long. There's so many things I want to say. I feel like I've only scratched the surface. There's so many specific things in those books that I mentioned that I also want to talk about, but I just kind of wanted to give you an introduction to my trajectory of trying to fully experiencing what it means to be human on the most basic level, and restructuring the way that I view myself and my life in hopes that I can live a life that feels right for me and you know, is not driven by all these external factors that are kind of like, you know, leading me down a depressed rabbit hole that I feel like I don't need to be in. I can be content with myself and I can be content with my life and find my purpose in the world and just be okay with what is and not try to like look for something that I'll never find. All right. Peace out.